Hi, I'm Susie. Are you okay? Yeah, good. I'm an artist, and today we're going to be in the museum making art together. So I'm really excited to be with you and to be able to share the museum with you. We're going to do some sculpture. So we're making sculptures based on the cast behind, or the ones that we've kind of looked at, looking around. And kind of thinking about details, and we are cutting some of the shapes out of cardboard and then putting paper on top and adding in detail of, like, for example, like some of the kind of flowing lines of the fabric, and then we're beginning to think about how we can start to build up a three-dimensional sculpture, so adding support aspects to it, like in the casts as well. Before we do that, we are going to do a little bit of drawing first. So have you all got a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen? Yeah, brilliant, cool. So just for about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to take you around the museum on the iPad, and we're just going to draw some of the things you see, some of the patterns or the shapes, whatever you can see as I take you around. There'll be quite quick drawings, and you'll notice that in the museum some of the sculptures we have got kind of bits broken off or fragments, so if you want to kind of draw some of those shapes as well. And we'll just get as many little sketches as you can, and just focus on the kind of shapes and any folds in the fabric or any kind of details that you like. Okay, I'm going to keep walking. Don't worry if you haven't got much. Just kind of start building up a picture. So I'm going to find somewhere else for us to just do a quick sketch of too. I'm going to focus on this here. So it's really nice where the fabric kind of comes around her arm and her waist. It's amazing how someone would have made this in stone originally, make it look so flowing. So we get a good kind of build up of the good picture. I'm going to take you around here, and something a little bit different. He's one of my favourites. Her wing. You will see her wing. Okay, one last stop before we start making. I'm going to find you one more animal. I'm going to do this here. Brilliant. So obviously it was quite quick, and I was asking you to do lots of drawing in quite a short amount of time, but it was just to kind of build up this picture of these kind of shapes and textures and details that we can now use for our making. So have you all got some cardboard? Got cardboard, glue, scissors, and some sort of pen or something to add some detail. Hopefully some tape, but if you haven't got tape, don't worry too much about that. We'll manage without. And a little bit more paper. So any shape that you can think of that you've seen onto that first piece of cardboard. And you might need to kind of unfold. Mine's not quite flat, so I'm just going to kind of cut it away a little bit so it's a bit flatter. Please be careful when using the scissors. If you need to ask for help at home, do. So yeah, so grab, what we're going to do is from your drawings, we're going to start to try to build up a quite kind of abstracted sculpture, and we're going to kind of slot together some of the different pieces. So you might take a little bit of the owl and you might give it a wing, or you might take a little bit of one of the bodies and put it with the animal. I think it's a lion that we just saw, and start to kind of build up this quite kind of abstract. Do you understand what I mean by abstract? Yeah, I've got a few. So abstract meaning kind of not too realistic, quite kind of unusual looking sculpture. So what we're going to do is we are going to, first of all, take some cardboard, and I'd like you to take one of the shapes that you saw in the museum, and with your pencil or your pen to draw some of that shape flat onto the first piece of cardboard. Okay. So grab that first shape. Maybe it's the wing, or maybe it's the owl, or maybe it's a leg. I'm at a disadvantage because I didn't draw, so I'm just going to look around me and choose something whilst we go. Stand a bit. And for now, try and keep the pieces relatively big. You don't want to go too small because it will get too fiddly to build it up. So you're kind of thinking about, yeah, things that are kind of hand shaped, ideally. And when you're ready, yeah, just start cutting it out. So I'm going to just talk you through the first step, and then from there we can kind of build up with each piece. So the first step is you've got your piece. You can then either decorate straight onto the cardboard, or it's quite nice because some of the, most of the works in this museum are quite pale in colour. So if you've got some white paper, we can then stick a bit of white paper onto the cardboard, and we can then kind of add the detail that way. Or you might like to have a combination of the two. You might like to have the back or front being this cardboard colour and then the white on one side. So once you're ready, just kind of stick a piece onto the cardboard. And I'm just going to stick it in the far corner so it saves some paper as well for next time. So then you've got your white. You might want to do it on both sides, or as I said, maybe just one. It's really up to you. And from there, we can start to add the details. So you might want to add some bits of the owl, or I'm kind of focusing on a bit of cloth behind. So I'm going to start to add some of the cloth details as well, and kind of start to give it that sense of flowing fabric. And if you have colours, you can use colours as well, but I'm just sticking to black for kind of simplicity's sake. Also quite nice with black because you can add, any colour really, you can add some shading as well and have some kind of cross-hatching to start giving a sense of the different tones within the sculpture. Or you can keep it quite kind of also just keep it fairly linear. It's up to you. But I also like, can you see, I'm just going to show you quickly again on here. Kind of got the texture, so you might want to think of a way that you could create texture with your pen as well. So what's nice is it's up to you how much detail you go now. So I'm going to have a go at that kind of dappled effect a little bit on the stone, kind of mottled. And there's lots of ways you could do this. I'm just trying one way. And it starts to give a little sense of that texture. So basically now well, I've got my first panel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep making different sections of the sculpture. So I'm going to choose another abstracted shape now. And once we've got a few, I'll show you how we're going to kind of slot them together. You might also like to have some panels that are kind of double-sided, so card white, and then some where you do both the back and the front with the white as well. I'm going to kind of vary it a little bit. So I've nearly finished my second piece, and then I'll talk about combining. And if you change your mind as well, if you want to kind of change the shape, obviously you can once you've decorated a little bit. So I'm having a go at doing the hair, which is kind of another way of carving stone, and quite an unusual way to get detail. Okay, so once you've got a couple of pieces, we can kind of start to think about how you'd like to begin to join them. We can cut slots and kind of cut them together, or also another way of doing it would be to kind of think about making some kind of support structures. So a little bit like the museum has these structures to support the legs or the kind of different aspects of the sculptures. We can make our own. So we can start to kind of think about building up our piece with different kind of bits of support alongside, or we can also start to kind of cut some slots and start to cut. So maybe a combination of both would work really well. And we can do it in different ways in terms of the support structure. So you can kind of fold it up to make it more rigid as well if you need. Start to build some strength in the card. Keep working on it as well. So what's quite nice is you can kind of come back to this and add more to it at a later date, or if you come into the museum at some point and you do a sketch, and then you can come, you can go back home and make a little bit and add more, and kind of see your sculpture as a museum in itself, that you're kind of always tweaking the collections or adding new additions. Yeah, mine's slightly shonky, but